Can I now turn to Ms. Oksana Pyzik, who is from the University College of London, and she's going to talk about advancing women in science global leadership.
Time. We'll start again. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for your kind introduction. Your Highness, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, and fellow panelists, it is my great honor and privilege to address all of you here today at the United Nations headquarters in New York to celebrate the 3rd International Day of Women and Girls in Science. From a vision to reality, from a dream to a resolution, Her Royal Highness Princess Nisreen El-Hashemite has lifted women and girls in science everywhere by marking February 11th our official internationally observed UN Day, a truly crowning achievement. Thank you to RACIT, the UN, and partners for bringing global action and attention to female scientists as leaders in solving some of the world's most complex challenges. I ask you to imagine, what would the world look like if we tapped into the full potential and power of women across the globe? How much more could we, men and women, achieve if we worked together, harnessing the previously underused and overlooked talents? It is global forums like this that bring together world leaders and future leaders in science, politics, the private sector, and academia to envision such a future. It starts at home. I'd like to dedicate my speech to my earliest inspiration and my greatest champion, my mother, Oksana Pyzik, who tragically passed away in 2009 from breast cancer. She was a very tough teacher and a fierce believer in the power of education to transform lives. She is the very reason I am proud to call myself a pharmacist, lecturer, and woman of science. Every girl and every woman has the right to fulfill their God-given potential according to each of their individual talents, hard work, and imagination. The expectant, untapped human, intellectual, and financial capital is unfathomable. It is paramount that this generation finish what the suffragettes and other gender equality activists brought into the mainstream for the benefit of all humankind. This week marks the 100th anniversary of British women winning the right to vote, and as such set the stage for a century of change in Europe and the rest of the world. Yet there is still no one country that has achieved real gender equality, and too many more countries where women still lack fundamental human rights. While certainly some progress has been made, we see gaps widening in other areas. According to the most recent World Economic Forum report, the most challenging gender gaps remain in the areas of income and health. Given the continued widening of the economic gender gap, it is now not to be closed for another 217 years, not in my lifetime nor my children's lifetime. Presently, the world faces many potential catastrophic challenges. We need science, from climate change to the unprecedented rise of superbugs and the now looming crisis of antimicrobial resistance, which threatens to take us to the dark ages of medicine before the advent of chemotherapy or surgery, because they will not be safe without effective antibiotics. We need science to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and we need women in science to apply their brain power, gifts, and grit in blazing new paths to new solutions. We need women in science. We can no longer afford to waste so much human potential for scientific discovery. Gender equality can be a solution for the lack of competitiveness in discovery research. We can increase the odds of discovering, say, a cure for cancer by increasing and retaining the talent pool, achieving greater gender equity and excellence in research. Yet across the UK, we see 1 in 3 universities going backwards on female professorships, with the worst statistics in STEM. And this is in spite of the very gender initiatives that are meant to drive this change, the Equality Challenge Charter. As this shows, policy alone is not enough. We need women leaders in science. Lack of visibility in leadership has knock-on effects on the number of women pursuing careers in the STEM field. These imbalances ultimately cost women leadership opportunities, sidelining them out of decision-making at the highest levels of science and policy. What people may think of as science problems actually affect everyone, men, women, and children. And what science solves actually is largely determined by who is leading the scientific inquiry. Without women's leadership, direction, and vision in science research, its gains that benefit everyone are lost. For example, we know countless women with heart disease have been misdiagnosed in emergency rooms and dangerously sent home because we did not know then that women may exhibit different signs and symptoms of heart attack. And yet cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women, more than all of the forms of cancer combined. We need women in science to be celebrated. Only 9 in every 100 awards in public health and medicine is attributed to a woman, despite making up the majority of the healthcare workforce. We need more women voices and achievements to be recognized and celebrated in the public sphere. If we don't address gender biases in health awards, women will remain stuck in a cycle. They will not receive awards because of their lack of representation in leadership positions, and their lack of awards will limit their advancement towards those very same leadership positions. It is my recommendation to the panel that measures to reduce gender bias in this sphere could possibly include establishing an award for gender parity and in the sciences, and that this could be awarded annually on the International Women and Girls in Science Day. This gender parity award would be based on the processes and the policies in place in selection criteria, including gender diversity and equality. Science has been one of the greatest liberators of women in history, and I believe women in science will topple the remaining inequalities, driving this social change alongside partners in government and the United Nations, and in doing so, redefine the very nature of leadership. Thank you.
Wow.